My most important lessons about business did not come from my 10 years as the chairman and CEO of Mitsubishi Electric America, or from my many years as managing director of Mitsubishi Electric Corporation in Tokyo, or even from my 8 years as the chairman and co-founder of this Future 500 group of companies. My most important lessons about business I learned in the forest. For those of you who have not read my book, let me explain very briefly. My first lesson in the forest happened 43 years ago. 2 days after I finished my graduate studies at the University of British Columbia, I was asleep when I got my lesson. This was very unfortunate because at the time I was driving a little British car through the forest of the Canadian Rockies. It is not advisable to drive a car through the Rockies when one is asleep. You might drive off a cliff, which is exactly what happened to me. When I woke up in the hospital, I had plenty of time to reflect upon what I could learn from this incident. I remember the advice that my father had given me a few years before. He knew I was an adventurer and a risk taker. He liked that, but he didn't want me to have too much of a good thing. So he took me aside and told me, do whatever you want, but don't die. I wanted to call my father to tell him that I had taken his good advice, but my jaws was clamped shut, so I couldn't. I still have about 5 staples in my jaw. He found out anyway. The Japanese Consul General saw an article on my adventure in the local newspaper and sent it to him. I have since passed along my father's advice to others. To me, this is what he means. Do what you want. Follow your purpose, but don't die. For a young man driving off a cliff in the Rocky Mountains teaches a valuable lesson. Stay alert. Watch where you are going. Enron grew unsustainably. Then, because it failed to adapt, it collapsed. Much of our industrial economy has been operating on an accounting system, much like Enron's. We too are blocking feedback. We are ignoring ecological and social costs and benefits that should appear on our balance sheets. One way we do this is the way we account for hydrocarbons. When we buy hydrocarbons, we don't count the cost of creating them. We just count the cost of extracting them. Ready-made, from the bank, from the earth. That's like valuing our life savings according to the cost of driving to ATM to withdraw them. No feedback, no adaptation, no innovation. We slow our response to change. We make ourselves vulnerable. Gradually, the feedback signals grow louder until we finally are forced to react to them. They take the form of Bhopal, Valdez, global warming, energy conflicts, terrorism, war. Let me propose 4 principles from the rainforest that can help us change our business incentives. We in business must begin to follow the examples of Andrew Carnegie here in Pittsburgh, Henry Ford in Detroit, Iwasaki of Mitsubishi, William McKnight of 3M, and others, the inspired business activists who created some of the first great companies. Their greatness is not that they saw opportunity in selling to the already wealthy. Their greatness is that they saw opportunity in the poor people of the masses. The poor became their customer base and ceased to be poor. And here we are, gathered here today. Last month, I read that the United States Secretary of Defense was frustrated that the war on terrorism has not been as easy as he expected. Let me suggest a better way to win this war. The objectives of terrorists is to foster terror, to make people afraid, and provoke them to anger. The terrorists that bombed the United States 2 years ago were trying to provoke us to be afraid and strike back in anger. They do not expect to win the support of the 1 billion richest citizens of the world. They want to win the support of the 3 billion poorest citizens of the world. They are trying to provoke us to strike back in fear and anger and to turn those 3 billion against us. Lately, it seems like we have been doing their job for them. It is important that we be careful not fall into their trap. If we want to win the war on terrorism, we need to turn our attention to the people who the terrorists falsely claim to represent. We must begin to realize that their interests are our interests. Not the survival of the fittest, survival of all who fit. Remember, in rainforest economy, it is not a question of who is most fit, west or east, north or south, industrial or developing, corporate or NGO. It is a question where we all best fit. My philosophy is this: we don't run our companies to earn profits. We earn profits to run our company. Our companies have meaning and purpose, a reason to be here. That suggests my final lesson from the rainforest. For every creature in the rainforest, there is a mission. So, live the mission of your business. For the mission of business, the mission of civilization, is to further the path of development that began in the rainforest, the same path that cultivated human civilization and support us today to develop the human ecosystem sustainably in all its diversity and complexity. What I learned in the rainforest is easy to understand. We can use less, have more, consume less, be more. It is the only way, for the interest of business and the interest of the environment are not incompatible. They are the East and West, North and South, Islam and Christendom, yin and yang, product and process, economy and ecology, mind and spirit, two halves. Only together can we make the world whole. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.